Greetings from my workstation in my kitchen. Hi, I've missed you. I've been on vacation, but I'm back now. So, this week on Locks Talk, we're going to continue to go into the topic of hair loss. And we're going to talk about alopecia areata today, which is a more medical form of alopecia. So sit tight and let's talk about it on Locks Talk. Okay, now I can talk generally to you about alopecia areata, or AA, which is what I'm going to refer to it as in this talk, AA, about what I know about it offhand, but I don't want to miss a beat. So I am going to go to the method I used before, where you're going to see me looking down. I'm reading my blog on my computer just to be sure that I get all the details that you need to know about AA, okay? Because it's very important and I don't want to miss anything. So let's get into it. Let's go. Greetings and welcome to another Locks Talk, where I talk about all things locks and loose natural hair. This talk affects all with hair. That's everyone. Everyone, okay? As promised from my talk about traction alopecia, which can be avoided, I'm going to discuss the medical form of alopecia, which studies have shown are in most cases related to a compromised immune system, okay? The medically related form of alopecia is called alopecia areata, or AA. Okay, AA is a sudden hair loss that starts with circular bald patches that may overlap. AA occurs when the immune system attacks hair follicles and may be brought on by severe stress. The main symptom of AA is hair loss. Diagnosis and treatment may address any underlying conditions and include topical scalp medications. Make no mistake about it, AA is a medical condition that must be diagnosed and treated by a medical professional. Okay, so I'm going to reiterate some things I talked about when we talked about traction alopecia. Traction alopecia is avoidable because it is caused by pulling of the hair in a consistent pattern, like always putting your hair in a tight ponytail, or always doing tight braids, or over twisting your locks, or heavy hair, from extensions and things like that, and it's constantly pulling your hair at the follicle, and eventually the follicle becomes inflamed and infected, and the stress of the pull it makes your follicle let go of the hair, resulting in hair loss. Okay, that's what traction alopecia is. I'm going to go back into reading my blog as to the relation between traction alopecia, and alopecia areata, AA. Okay, AA is not the same as traction alopecia. Okay, your hairdresser, loctician is not qualified to diagnose AA. They're not doctors. We are not doctors. We are not qualified. I've had clients come to me with AA, and I can see that it is, but professionally and legally, I cannot diagnose them with it. I always tell them, you have to go and get a diagnosis and treatment plan from your medical professional before we move forward. Okay, because the treatment that we do is after medical treatment has been done to help regrow your hair. Keep that in mind, okay? Now, while many may have the remedies and tools to help with the attempt to regrow your hair, it is very important to get a proper diagnosis and treatment beforehand. Okay? Do not let anyone treat your scalp before getting a proper diagnosis from your doctor. Oftentimes, AA cannot be cured due to an ongoing chronic or underlying condition that compromises your immune system. Regrowing your hair may not be possible in many cases, such as these with the chronic illness. Okay, be mindful of that when seeking regrowth treatment with your hairdresser, because it's not a guarantee that your hair is going to grow back, but it's worth it's worth it to try, right? There also is no guarantee for your hair regrowing. You should not attempt regrowth treatments until you have been treated and are in remission. I had AA when I was 8 years old. I did. Yeah. Okay. And it took a while before my mom could work on regrowing my hair because we had to get me treated first and get my immune system healthy again. And from the onset of AA to regrowing my hair, it took 13 months or so before my hair grew back strong. So it does take time and a lot of patience for regrowth. It's not going to happen overnight. And a lot of people, they look for that. Oh, I want it to happen now. And it's not. No. That's like somebody who weighs 400 pounds that wants to lose weight and they want to be 220 pounds in a month. No. Even with surgery, that's not possible. So you have to just be patient and give yourself grace and the time to get there. It will get there, or, in the process, you have to get your mind right because sometimes, like I said, it doesn't work. So you got to go through the 5 stages of grief and saying goodbye to your hair and things like that. So it's a lot that is entailed with dealing with AA. Okay, excellent question. So AA can be diagnosed by your primary care physician or PCP, or a board certified dermatologist. It is diagnosed by visually looking for a pattern of baldness, because there's a pattern of which the baldness happens. It's not like just you have a bald spot because somebody yanks some hair out of your head. There's a pattern of how it happens. Where the hair loss occurs. And they also look at hair samples under the microscope. So some things show, like when some of your hair is pulled out, and they can look at the follicles, the hair at the root and see what the problem is. And then finally, in some cases, not all, but in some cases, a scalp biopsy may be necessary in order to rule out other conditions that may have caused the hair loss. Okay. There's also an ANA blood test that can help diagnose AA. Now, I'm going to list on the next screen, and I would like for you to pause to read and write down anything that you think or know you may be suffering from. Okay? In this list, I'm going to name a few of them. I can't pronounce all of them, so I'm just going to name a few of them scattered here and there, but I'm going to put the complete list of them on the next slide. Depression and anxiety, vitiligo, morphia, atopic dermatitis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, hypothyroidism, endemic goiter, Addison's disease, lupus, diabetes, Down syndrome, to name a few. There's about 16 in total that I have on this list, and others. Now, information that I cited this from is from the Indian Journal of Dermatology, and it's based on an AA and autoimmune clinical study. Okay. I do have other studies as well, and this same list of diseases are listed on those studies as well. But for this particular blog, I chose to use this one as to cite the information on this blog. Okay. Now, I know that you noticed that I said something earlier about how a scalp biopsy might be done to see if there's any other chronic illnesses that may be causing hair loss, right? So let's look at that term hair loss and compare it to the term alopecia. Now, alopecia in itself is an umbrella term for conditions characterized by hair loss. Okay. Oftentimes, traction alopecia and alopecia areata are mistaken by many as being the same, as I said earlier. Let me assure you, they are not. One is avoidable, one is medical, and can't be, predicted or avoided. There are 3 main types of medically induced alopecia. There's alopecia areata, AA, which is the most common. and it's associated with the next two that I am also going to mention. There's alopecia totalis, and that's a chronic condition of complete hair loss with AA. And treatment outcomes are best when the disease is caught at early onset, okay? And then there is alopecia universalis, which is characterized by complete hair loss on the scalp and body in the most advanced form of AA, okay? And now we're going to talk about treatments. Hair regrowth after treatment in many cases is a 50-50 chance and can take up to a year for hair to regrow. Most who has had a case of AA will likely, no guarantee, but will likely experience more than one case of AA in their lifetime. Hair regrowth can take months, which requires a lot of patience in order to keep stress levels low. Stress is a major factor that can reinduce symptoms of AA and cause another case to occur. Remember, there are no guarantees of regrowth, and for those who do, case by case, there is a 50-50 chance. Okay, and when I say for those that do, like if you had a reoccurred case or you had another case and it worked the last time when you regrew your hair, there's no guarantee that it's going to happen again in the next case. So case by case, there's a 50-50 chance of success of regrowing your hair. So here are some tips on how not to spread it once you are diagnosed with AA, and to try to keep it at bay and under control. Number one, avoid hair and scalp trauma. What do I mean by that? Well, I've viewed videos and reels of women with pretty severe cases of AA getting their hair braided or something done that's traumatizing their scalp. Now, it might look real nice at the end. I ain't gonna hate. Yo, it looks really good. However, it's not worth the further damage that it can cause. So I know how important a lot of women's hair are to them, and, reserving it and the embarrassment and how it affects your self-esteem and stuff like that. It's hard. I know. Trust me, I know. But you don't want to do things that's going to cause you further harm. It's like putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. It's not going to make the pain go away forever, okay? Very temporary, okay? Number two, try to reduce stress. Stress can induce AA or make it worse. And take advantage of the corticosteroid treatments. That's the shots that you see people get in their scalp, and they help stimulate the follicles and things like that. But I only recommend doing that if you have a more severe case and if it is absolutely necessary. Like, you've tried everything else and it's just, you know what, screw it. Let's do it. I just watched a video literally minutes before I started recording this one, where a young lady with lupus went to her dermatologist to get treatment about hair loss, and she was at that point where she was like, okay, let's just try this and see how it goes, and I wish her the best. I really do, because I know how hard that must be for her. And number four, a change in diet can also help reverse the effects of AA. And there are certain foods that you can eliminate from your diet that may aid in the improvement of your overall health and reduce the symptoms of AA. Now, this one you have to do your research and find what works best for you, because there's no one particular diet. Like, there are a lot of diets that's out there, like, for example, the keto diet. There's no one way to do that. It is specifically designed for each individual person that's doing the keto diet. And this particular diet plan is the same thing. There's no one way to do it. You have to design it that works best for your body and your immune system and your health, that's going to improve for you. Okay, so we almost finished. Now, I'm going to give you the order of steps that you need to take once you think or feel like or have seen evidence that you may be suffering from a medically induced form of alopecia, or AA, alopecia areata. Number one, see your PCP, your primary care physician, or a board certified dermatologist for diagnosis. Okay? Don't go to your hairdresser and say, oh, do I have it? No, they don't qualify. We don't qualify to diagnose you. You have to get a diagnosis from a medical professional. Okay? Number two, under doctor's care and instruction, complete any necessary treatment that is recommended in your prognosis and follow-up care. Okay? That's number two. Number three, this is where we come in. Seek assistance from your hair care provider if qualified to treat scalp and hair regrowth. Okay, not all hairdressers are qualified to treat hair and scalp in that way. Okay, so be careful who you go to. All right, and take it from there. But remember, this takes time and patience. There's no one that has a miracle regrowth in a bottle. There are a lot of people that advertise it, but there's some things that work much better and faster than others, but there's no such thing as a miracle in a bottle. Like, we're going to put it on your head and next week you got a full head of hair again. That's not going to happen. So, yeah. So let's move on into our conclusion, and I'll send you on your way. We've made it to the end, so I'm going to give you a conclusion, and again I'm going to read what I wrote here because I put a lot of time and passion into this to pack it into this short little discussion. Alopecia areata is a condition of hair loss that affects so many and can really take a toll on one's self-esteem. I speak from experience when I say this. Diagnosis of AA has helped many discover that they had chronic illnesses they didn't know they even had prior to onset of AA. And this discovery has helped them in those cases to get the treatment they needed. AA, in many cases, is your body's way of telling you there is something medically wrong and requires attention and treatment. While such a warning comes off as a killer of one's self-esteem, which is rude in most people's eyes, it can also be seen as a lifesaver in a way, as terrible as it is. I would never have known how ill I was as a child, which probably would have resulted in death had I not suffered from a bad case of AA. My immune system was severely low. I was anemic and a whole bunch of other stuff on top of that I had no idea what's going on. And yes, it killed my self-esteem immensely due to the hair loss and baldness, but also from being bullied in school by other kids. Kids are very cruel. And I'm sure they are as much today as they were when I was a kid, but it wasn't like cyberbullying. That wasn't a thing in my day, but it's worse when it's to your face and people are physically harming you because of a situation that you can't control. That was hard. I went through a lot of shadow work and healing and forgiving to get to where I am today because of that. But despite all of that, the discovery of the alopecia led to the discovery of the chronic illness that I was dealing with, and it saved my life. So for that part, I am forever grateful. That is the silver lining that has helped me get through and through and through. And if I can go back to my 8-year-old self, I can tell her, I know it's hard and it's bad now, but we are going to make it. And here I am, 40 years later, and 50's right around the corner. Yes, and So, thank you all for joining me this week on Locks Talk, where I talk about all things locks and loose natural hair. I hope that this conversation was helpful to you. and understand that a lot of things that I do choose to talk about are things that I myself have experienced on some level, whether it was directly with a client or me personally. Believe it or not, 90% of it is me personally, and the other 10% is me on some level, but also in addition, the client that also has gone through it. So it's great that I can use my experiences to help others learn and educate them, to help them get through things. I consider that a blessing. So thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you next time on Locks Talk with Pammy. Bye.